Welcome, thank you. I'm so happy that we're all here together today to talk about mental health. It is something that's close to my own heart. I've had my own journey with mental health challenges from my teens when I lost a sibling in a sudden road accident. In my 30s, I nursed my firstborn child through cancer. And in my 40s, I encountered the menopause. Now, there's a whole nother story attached to that. But I am a chartered physiotherapist and the director of Precizion Ltd. That is my online wellness platform. I've got quite a lot of material that I'm going to skip over briefly because it's been covered perhaps already to some degree. And so the challenges for employers dealing around mental health issues. 51% of all work-related ill health, working days lost, is due to mental health challenges. And so this is a huge challenge for us. And so just to really point out that we're all somewhere on this mental health continuum, somewhere between health at one end and illness at the other. And I know that I fluctuate. I'm rarely in one spot every day. But we might be feeling sad or down, have fears and worries. And that was definitely something that I encountered around the time of menopause. Unexplained anxiety was something that took the rug out from under me. And mood changes, highs and lows, and this isn't necessarily conducive to being productive in the workplace. And so speaking to that menopause piece, interestingly, this is a biological cause of mood disturbance due to the fluctuating levels of estrogen in the blood. And common challenges that we face are around depression, anxiety, loss of confidence, and sleep. And anybody who's spent a sleepless night knows it doesn't take many of those for you to start to feel a little under par. And so mental well-being, what's it all about? What do we need to do in order to have this holistic picture of a healthy person? And top of the list, top of my list anyway, is let's be active. And I'll come to that in due course, but be mindful is the other thing. And that has its origins in Buddhism. And so I'm a certified yoga teacher, and mindfulness practices are really embedded within that practice, non-judgmental attitudes, and really cultivating awareness. And so connecting, I heard something this week, friend power is more important than willpower. And I thought that was fantastically true. And so remembering to be generous and appreciative, and keep learning, learn something new if you can, learn a language, learn a musical instrument, and these are all really going to stimulate the brain to grow and develop. Now, moving for mental health. Why should we be moving for our mental health? And the answers come down to really the effects of movement on the brain. And so we know that only light activity can increase the electrical activity in the hippocampus. And the hippocampus in the brain is the center for learning, memory, mood, and emotion. And so by undertaking activities just as simple as walking, we can enhance the electrical activity in the hippocampus, and actually consistently undertaking regular activity will increase the volume of the hippocampus. And so 3 times a week, 20 minutes walking, and they noticed in a study recently that that would increase the volume. And so this just improves our cognition and our creativity. And this is something that we want. And so a sedentary 20-year-old will generate half as many ideas as an active 70-year-old. Now, that's not to be sneezed at, is it? Also, we're looking at activity promoting a hormone called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And this has been described as fertilizer for the brain. And so the brain is like a muscle. It has plasticity. And so we need to use it. And in response, it will change. Ignore it, and it atrophies like any muscle. In terms of the body, obviously activity it's no surprise that it's good for your muscles, and strengthening the muscles, mobilizing the joints and stretching the tendons and the ligaments is going to ultimately prevent aches and pains and relieve joint stiffness and reduce our risk of injury. And particularly in the workplace, we might be talking about back issues, which are awfully common, and repetitive strain. So what kind of movement should we be doing? Well, I've already alluded to the walking, and ideally we should be walking every day. We should be moving to feel alive. And in this fabulous sunshine we've got today here in Lincolnshire anyway, I went out for a walk earlier, and absolutely on the return you're much more productive, and actually you're much more productive for about 2 hours afterwards. And it doesn't have to be for very long, even just 15 minutes at lunchtime. Get out into the air. You know, maybe you're not commuting anymore, but you could walk to work or pretend to walk to work like I do, and get the benefits of the feel-good chemicals circulating through the brain. And resistance training actually has really significant effects on the brain. The feel-good chemicals, the endogenous cannabinoids and the endogenous opioids, are released when we do strength training. And also increasing our physical capacity decreases our risk of injury, as I mentioned earlier. So what can we do if we're spending all day sat at a desk? Get up, take regular breaks, circle your arms around, do some squats and tiptoe raises, and stand periodically if you can. Adopt a standing desk. On your way to the kettle, grab a hold of the top of the door frame and stretch out your shoulders. If you have a physically demanding job, then we're talking about repetitive tasks, handling loads, and repeated or sustained bending. And so the antidote to these kinds of roles is to maintain the mobility of the joints, the strength in the muscles, and do restorative type movement practices such as yoga, which also incorporate relaxation and have a good strong core so that we can protect the spine. And as I mentioned, there is a place for relaxation and deep breathing techniques, and even just 6 deep breaths can trigger changes in the sympathetic nervous system, and that is your fight or flight mechanism. So in a brief moment, 6 deep breaths. I'm sure we've all got time for that. When's a good time to get moving, I hear you ask? Well, early in the morning. Exposing yourself to sunlight actually aids restful sleep. And so good sleep is going to improve our capacity to deal with stresses and strains in our lives. And actually, the daylight that you'll get outside is always going to be better than that you would get from a light bulb. So even if all you do is stand outside the door with your morning coffee, then that is going to improve your ability to sleep. Embed movement in your day. So regular inputs, little and often is the way that I would talk about it, so that you have an opportunity to vary your position and the tasks that you're doing if possible. And then monitor movement with an activity tracker, and think about being somebody who relaxes actively. How do we do this? How do we go about getting more movement into our lives, into our day, into our work? And I came across recently an interesting article in the BMJ about something called the Goldilocks principle, and we will share this in the chat for anyone who's interested. But that, if at all possible, we want to get in at the design stage, and that is to design work that has just the right amount of sitting. And that's where Goldilocks comes in, because if you remember, the porridge was too hot, no, too cold, no, and then it was just right. So we're looking for just the right amount of sitting, standing, and moving, arranged in a suitable pattern. Physically active workers oftentimes have poorer health, not better, than sedentary workers. And obviously there are socioeconomic health inequalities that play into that. And actually, it's possible that the Goldilocks principle could also be applied to the mental demands at work and have a positive impact on mental as well as physical health. Coming to bite-size opportunities, what we do know from motivation theory is that we're much more likely to do something if it's packaged in a small package. And so habits will be much more easily embedded into our lives if we start small. 5 minutes. Think of when you push the button on the kettle to boil, have a dumbbell handy to lift in the kitchen, and something as simple as that can set us on a journey to health and well-being. And yes, have one in your workplace too, or just do a few squats. Household chores, nobody's particularly thrilled by household chores, but it is an opportunity to get physical and get active. So if you think every time you sit down on a chair, do 10 squats before you actually come to rest. And maybe balancing on one leg while you're on the telephone, something to just embed and incorporate movement into your day. Harness the power of technology. There's so much health tech around these days. Track your sleep, track your activity, moments of rest, and also something called heart rate variability. Heart rate variability speaks to mental health. It's indicative of our general state of a mind. And so there are some apps that you can track heart rate variability, for instance. Remember to celebrate success, because positive emotions will help to reinforce behaviors. And look to community. It may be that there are already health champions in your workplace who would be willing to lead a lunchtime movement session, for instance, a lunchtime walking group where people can get together and have a bit of conversation, maybe just 2 people at the moment. But what we do know is that people who buddy up are more likely to move more, and so 700 steps more each day, actually. Think about working smarter, not harder. This is controversial perhaps, but scientists generally agree that the ideal daily working time is about 6 hours. And so there's something called the Pomodoro time management technique, and we'll put a link to that in the chat as well for everyone to have a look at. So health promotion, what can we do? Start at the top, be genuinely interested in the well-being of our workforces, educate people around this topic and involve staff in decisions. Support healthy lifestyle choices, and I'm talking maybe about vending machines and such like, and harness the power of technology. And ultimately, we need to offer a variety of opportunities. So here with me at Precizion, I'm a virtual business, and we have a lot of virtual opportunities that I'm very happy to offer out to people. So if there's anything you would like to know from me, please let us know in the chat. And thank you so much